I'm a believer. I think Bitcoin is one of those things that will outlast us. I think it's one of those things that are what you call a multi-generational asset, right? Like gold. There's very few of those.
Welcome to Hustle Share, the podcast that features the daily grinds of unique hustlers around the world to show not our differences, but that our hustles are very much alike. Now here's your host, Ronster Bailon.
Welcome to episode 35 of the Hustle Share podcast. My name is Ronster, and I'm your host. And this episode is brought to you by Payroll Hero, a time, attendance, scheduling, HR, and payroll solution for Philippine companies. If you are new to the show, we're glad to have you on board because we're about to wrap up season 1. But before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this podcast is for adults only, so if there are kids around, make sure that you are listening to this in a safe environment where cussing is not going to be an issue. Because today we're going to be talking about cryptocurrency, and we're going to be talking to John Bailon, the founder of SCI, to talk about the hustle behind a Filipino Bitcoin pioneer. John is going to be sharing with us how he started his entrepreneurial journey running a photo booth business and how he found his co-founders who were also running separate businesses of their own. John's also going to talk about how they started out being very active in a Facebook group about Bitcoin because they didn't know anyone that can actually talk to them about Bitcoin, and how they eventually put up a company together out of their passion for Bitcoin. He also talked about their early struggles of how they lost one co-founder because they had a falling out, and how they almost called it quits because it was very difficult to put the company from the ground up. John's also going to shed some light on how difficult it is and how different developing blockchain technology is compared to normal tech that people usually make. John is also going to share how he got Kakao Talk to invest in them, being the only company that Kakao Talk has only invested on here in the Philippines. And here's where it gets interesting because we all know that the bubble burst for cryptocurrency last year, and he's going to shed some light on how difficult it was for them when that happened. And then he's going to share the biggest news that we want to know about how Cebuana Lhuiller invested in their company. And wait till the end because John's going to share with us a lot of tips, like what are the things he sees in cryptocurrency in the near future, and how can companies survive in rough times when things aren't going right. So if you're ready to learn the hustle behind a Filipino Bitcoin pioneer, let's begin this episode right now. Welcome to the latest episode of the Hustle Share podcast. Today, we are with one of the hottest startups in the land, in the country, because they just dropped the bomb on us. What was it, this week or last week?
It was last week.
Last week, when they dropped a big bomb, when SCI, which is Satoshi Citadel Industries, got invested on by one of the biggest conglomerates in the country, Cebuana Lhuiller. Right. And today, to talk about that and the hustle that it took to get this to happen, we have their co-founder and CEO, Mr. John Bailon. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
There you go. Okay, now John, before we go straight to the jugular, first of all, congratulations for getting the Cebuana money, man. Right? I don't know how you fucking say it. So, Lhuiller or Lhuiller.
It's Lhuiller,
or whatnot. But this is a big win for the ecosystem. Because every single win that we get as a ecosystem matters.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of we always talk about. Actually, we rarely talk about the failures, but every win counts because every win is a step ladder towards our ecosystem breaking through.
Yes.
Right? And we all know that we're lagging behind, but these are wins and we're building momentum. The wins are becoming frequent. But John, just for the sake of our listeners today, or hustlers that are listening today, what's your hustle?
Right. So since, as a young kid, I've always looked into entrepreneurship as a path for myself,
Okay.
And when I started SCI in 2014.
Okay.
Before that, I had met with Miguel and Jardine, who were my co-founders.
Right.
And it was very evident that we were very excited with cryptocurrency. At that time, it was really just Bitcoin, right? So 2013, and we were very excited at the potential of this technology.
You were so excited you fucking named the company after the fucking founder.
Right, exactly. That's actually
Satoshi,
right. Miguel came up with that name, and there's a whole interesting backstory around that, but I'll let Miguel talk to you about that.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, definitely it was something that we saw as an opportunity.
Okay.
Being Filipinos, we told ourselves, if we are going to start up this company, it has to focus on the Philippines, because otherwise, why even bother, right?
Exactly.
So a couple of months, talking to each other, figuring out what to do, we finally honed in on Bitcoin as a remittance vehicle.
Got it.
Right. And after testing a couple of products, we figured, hey, look, remittance is a huge thing here in the Philippines.
Right.
It's definitely the biggest industry in the Philippines by if you look at the numbers.
Right.
And so it was almost a natural path for us to get into it, right? And being that Bitcoin is such a game changer in terms of like moving money cross borders, or all over the world, we started looking into how it can sort of move money without actually requiring people to store money into it.
Right.
And so that's really how we started.
It's a free world, right? But before this, let's just take a step back a little bit and whatnot, because were you guys in payments and what? What's on a personal note? Let's just walk through your journey first and give us an idea of your co-founders' journeys, because I don't think any of you guys were in payments or remittance and whatnot.
Not at all. Not at all.
For you, John, what was your story? What was your first foray into entrepreneurship?
Right. So I actually, since I was in high school, I've always been interested in technology and in computers. I remember back then I would sell mixtapes or CDs.
Oh.
I would, I bought the first CD writer. Yep. And I would sell some mixtapes, right?
That's a legit hustle back then,
dude,
right?
It was very... it was simple back then.
True.
So I was really getting into computers at that time, and I got into LaSalle's computer science program.
Ah, okay.
Right.
So
I studied computer science, right?
Okay, right.
So I've always been a programmer. Just take note though, like I don't want to misrepresent anything. I didn't graduate computer science because I guess I just burned out on that. But it's more of
but this is in your blood,
right? Definitely. I love all my programming subjects, but the maths were really a pain, right?
Fucking Pythagoras sucks, right?
So exactly. So I've always been interested in computers and programming, and my actual first business actually started while I was still in college. I had this idea because it was my cousin actually who was at that time 2 years old or 1 year old, right?
Okay.
So my uncle had this party wherein they set up this sort of like a mobile studio with a photographer taking photos, right? And I looked at it and I said, you know what, this can be automated.
Yeah.
So I started fiddling around. I developed a proof of concept. I showed it to my uncle, who at that time, up until now actually, he was in the events industry.
Got it.
So they produce invitations, right?
Dude, yeah.
So I told him, I pitched to him, hey, look, we can do this as a service. And that's when Buy Capture was born.
Buy Capture. Dude, I actually got to use your product in one of the weddings I attended back in 2011.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's like,
nice.
fuck. Like, that's why when I looked you up and I said, dude, do you own Buy Capture? Because that was legit, Right. At the end of the day, now it's normal, whatever. There's a birthday party, a binyag, a wedding. Right. There's always the booth.
Exactly.
But back in the day, this was very rare, and you look legit. And especially with Buy Capture, what I like about you guys, it's like a photo booth.
Yes.
Right. There's there's no fucking photographer doing all these things.
Right.
It's all automated. Yep. So you came up with this concept.
Yes, we came up with this idea in 2006, launched it in 2007.
Wow. Were there competitors back then?
Back then, there was actually one other competitor.
Okay.
It was just the two of us back then. And funnily enough, like with any events industry, what we would do is that we would go to bridal fairs or
Right.
all these fairs
Before
right?
the juggernaut that it is now.
Exactly.
This is like the pre-J Mags,
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Shit. Where everything was just booming, but there was nothing. It's not an industry that it is now.
Exactly. Right. But it was growing back then, and we got to a point wherein there were a bunch of these people that were approaching us asking for franchising or maybe we can buy the booth from you, and we ignored them, right? And this is sort of like one of my, I wouldn't say blunders, but it was a mistake not to entertain these guys early on. So I guess turns out they became our competitors.
Right?
Right?
They wanted it so bad,
they wanted it so bad, right?
They'll copy it and whatnot.
Yes, exactly.
And now look at everywhere.
Oh, they're everywhere, dude. They're everywhere.
And the problem with this type of, when saturation happens, it becomes a price war.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Then, regardless of your quality, I'll get the 5,001.
Right, exactly. And they don't really, and what's bad about this is that you don't really get to compare the quality until you're there.
Right.
Right? Until you see, oh shit, this is washed up.
Got it.
I should have paid an extra $500 for that.
Exactly.
Right? So.
But how big did Buy Capture get, and what's the turning point for you and for you to jump ship? It's like, all right, I'm bored of this shit. I don't want to see no weddings anymore, binyags, the same routine and whatnot. And
no, it was really fun, when we were starting, because it was all about the technology and all about how to integrate all these, the printer and the camera.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, the industry adopted, and then now you can buy an off-the-shelf software just to run a photo booth business. And really, the turning point for me was back when, so we took over the company. My wife and I, we had just gotten married. We took over the business from my uncle.
Okay.
I was getting really bored at it. I mean, it's a fun business. You're always in these parties, but the technology isn't really so enticing for me to stay on.
In 7 years, I'm looking at your LinkedIn now, 2007 to 2014. That's a long time.
It's been a long,
That's a lot of parties too.
Exactly, dude. Like I've been to the first few of them, and I'm not a party person by any means, so that was really.
But the catering would be good.
The catering was good. The catering was good. Yeah. And you get to meet some people, but I'm an introvert, so it was a struggle for me. So anyway, around 2012 was when I ran into Bitcoin online, right? So like I figured, what is this? What is this shit, right? I mean, someone created his own currency.
Oh shit!
And just released it to the public.
Correct.
So I looked into it, downloaded the software, ran it on my computer. It crashed. So I ignored it, right? So wow, this must be some scam, right? Yeah. And then maybe about close to a year after that, I looked into it again. The price had improved significantly back then.
Yes.
And when I say improve, it was from $1 to maybe around $30. Yeah. So that's when I really.
How did you find it? Because back then, this was very, I don't know, just Reddit and whatnot.
I think it was on Dig.
In Dig, wow,
right.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
Forums, forums and whatnot. Because back then, social media. I mean, there's Facebook already, but it's not the.
Back then, it was a thing, right?
People just post shit. Facebook,
exactly.
Right, so you got to really dig deep into forums, and Dig is one of them. Quora, Reddit,
Quora.
Like what I said.
Reddit was really popular back then. And Hacker News, Y Combinator's Hacker News. Until now, I still look into that website every now and then.
Absolutely. Now, how did you find your two co-founders, Miguel and Jardine? Because, again, you come from very different backgrounds.
That's right.
So how did the Avengers assemble, per se? How did this happen?
Okay, so that was in 2013, and there was this Facebook group called Bitcoin PH. It's still up until now, actually.
Yeah.
And I remember me being very, very noisy in that group, right?
Okay.
I would always post about, I was just looking for people to talk to about Bitcoin. My normal friends, the people that are actually in my life.
Right.
Every time I talk to them about Bitcoin, they would just laugh like, dude, like that's Mickey Mouse money. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Right? So I had to look for other channels for me to, release this Bitcoin frenzy that I was in. And that's when I met Miguel, Miguel went to the same high school as me. But he was a bit older, like a couple of years older than me.
Don't narc him out. Don't say it's too old.
Just a couple of months.
There you go.
Older than me. And I was actually friends with his sisters.
So friends, only friends.
Oh yeah, just friends,
okay.
just friends.
Miguel, so just a complaint, just friends.
Very much just friends. Yeah.
Okay.
And Miguel and Jardine were already friends at that time.
Okay.
They've been into other stuff like poker and all these things.
But what was their professional background back then?
Jardine actually, until now, he runs a logistics company.
Oh wow!
If you can imagine, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, but he's always been interested in tech. In Bitcoin as well. He was very interested in Bitcoin back then. He was very loud also in the forums. Miguel was, back then, I think he was doing something with solar,
Oh, wow.
I guess early
executive
time,
corporate
right?
and whatnot.
Right.
Okay.
Solar power. And, but yeah, we really looked into Bitcoin as a sort of like a release of, all these
Got it.
information.
That was the common denominator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now, how did you decide, all right, fellas, I think... Since we're the noisiest in the room,
right?
Let's assemble and create a team. How did that jump? And how did you jump from, all right, I'm not doing this buy capture thing anymore.
Right.
I'll do something else.
Right.
Because that was hard. I'm pretty sure that jump is scary as fuck because you got 7 years of your life running a business. You develop a certain cushion in life.
For sure.
Right? How was that like for you guys, and when you decided?
Well, it was really more of a conversation between me and my wife, right?
Okay,
so like,
this is the toughest ones always.
Exactly.
You won't believe how many episodes we've had. But I started with my wife talking and whatnot. Right?
And don't get me wrong. My wife is very supportive,
right?
But when she realized that all I was talking about back then was Bitcoin, and she goes, "Oh, you should do something about that, right?" And so I started talking to Miguel, and I told him, if you guys are doing something, I want in, because I want to do something. I want to do something too. Back then, also, I was actually talking to Ron Hos. They were also just starting back then. So we had a couple of conversations, Miguel and I, and we finally met. I think it was in January of 2014, in BGC. And we just said, look, we want to get into this business.
Okay.
We have some ideas. What do you think? And I go, yeah, dude, like I have the background. I'm a computer science, dropout.
You're the tech guy.
I'm the tech guy, right? So we started talking, and at first, it was really just, we had to burn out all the fun stuff, right? Like the fat, right? We had to chew the fat off, right? And then finally, when we got deep down and, we decided, okay, we have to put a budget to this. And remember, back then, it was really, our intentions really was to create a company.
Yeah.
We had no notion of a startup, or we didn't think of it as a startup that we had to raise money and go.
But you've invested in the fucking technology already by buying coins.
Right. Personally, we were invested back then. So it was more of us trying to, and it's gonna be controversial now, but it's really a way for us to be able to get more Bitcoins for ourselves.
Absolutely. Right. Was the intention really, because that the value is gonna appraise eventually,
right?
And it's uncapped like stocks would and whatnot, right? Sky's the limit. Was it really for the trading part, or was it really that this technology can just fucking shatter so many limitations that world currently has?
That's it, right? And I think it's still evident up to this day. You can see that in Miguel. He was really the believer in the technology. I was really more interested I was curious about the technology itself and the inner workings of it. But Miguel was really the guy who would say that, dude, this will change everything. The banks will have to reposition themselves, and but all in all, I think we had this understanding that we want to be in this business. Yeah. At that time, looking back, it's easy to say that, this is going up. But at that time, it was a huge risk, right? It was a huge risk for us. And we were, we almost, we agreed that it can go really, really big or nothing.
Whatever,
nil, right?
All or nothing.
Exactly.
It was like a fucking bet.
Right, exactly. So I was lucky enough to be able to do this while my wife was running by capture.
So you had to.
So the bills were taken care of somehow. I had my my first daughter in 2011. So she was about 3 years old then. So, we were okay, right? But yeah, so that was something that that's how we were able to hone in on this business, really.
What were the first things you guys did to put it up?
The first few things that we did was we had like a daily meeting, or maybe it was like 3 times a week.
Oh wow!
Right,
okay.
and we would sit down, we would talk about what to do.
Okay.
I remember Jardine buying a bunch of domains because you know when you buy domains and they suggest
it's always
other domains.
The name that matters, the domains, right? That's my game too.
Right.
But this is my tip. Whenever, it's nice you look at domains, but always think of your startup in SEO. Like what will people search for? Like for us in Chatbot.ph, the single best thing I did, I didn't know shit about bots, but I bought the domain chatbot.ph. Until now, it's my biggest, lead generator because everybody that searches, I'll be in the first page or top or wherever. Yeah, exactly. And the leads are going to be organic.
Yeah, and you just, by just the name of it all, you know what you're doing.
For you guys, since you bought a dozen of domains, how did you zero in and what to call it?
Well, I don't want to say.
Right.
Well, maybe I should say it.
Right.
They bought a bunch of domains that were a mistake, right? So like they bought bitmarket.ph and the bitmarket.ph.
Yeah.
Not understanding that, dude, you don't need both of them, right?
Absolutely.
So we finally looked into bitmarket.ph and we figured, okay, even before we looked into remittances, we thought maybe we can do a payment processor.
Got it.
Like BitPay or like PayPal, right?
Got it.
And that was bitmarket.ph.
Yeah.
And so that's really how it all started.
Mm-hmm.
So when we built the system, we figured, hey, dude, we're converting Bitcoin to peso. Why don't we apply this to remittances? That's how remittances came into the picture.
Okay, now let's take a quick break, and when we come back, now let's talk about how you built the MVP further, along with the team and everything else in SEI. More after the break. Hey, hustlers, let's talk about something really important real quick. Something that a lot of you I know can relate to, especially if you're running a business. And I'm talking about payroll. You know how hard it is and time-consuming this is, especially that you have to do it twice a month. And as a guy who's been running tech startups for over 10 years now, this is something that I did not enjoy doing at all. It's not like it's because I don't like paying my employees. No, but it's already hard looking for funding to fund for your payroll, and then it's so much more harder if you're doing this manually. Luckily, I've found something that I highly recommend that you try, and it's from our friends from Payroll Hero. And here's how Payroll Hero works. They use your employee's face as your primary biometric to avoid buddy punching and ghost employees. So unless your team can figure out a way to swap each other's faces, tracking time and performance will never be your problem again. Payroll Hero is also very consumer friendly because it's also based on web and mobile, and it's also cloud-based, so you never have to worry about your clunky old biometric machines. So now you can automate time, attendance, scheduling, HRIS, and a payroll platform wrapped all in one. We have a very special bonus for you hustlers listening on the Hustle Share podcast. All you need to do is go to www.payrollhero.ph and use the promo code HustleShare to get a 60-day free trial. That's technically 4 payrolls that you can do all for free, so you can see how it works for you. And the beauty about it is there's no upfront payment needed to do this. So never worry about payroll again. With Payroll Hero, optimizing work productivity with happiness. And we're back from the break. We're still with John Bailon of SCI, who now we now know you're the back end. So this is very, very interesting how you guys gathered together.
Right.
But in 2016, I remember you wrote a blog.
Right.
That was probably when you told me prior to this recording. Said, "Yeah, don't interview me. I'm so dull." Like, fuck you, John. No, you don't know this. But in 2016, when Party File died, right? Mm-hmm. I remember reading your blog before, right? And I'm looking at it now, right? You wrote it August 2. I wrote my piece November. right? And I said like shit, and when I was I was very emotional and whatnot. I looked around. I was like, fuck. I read a blog that if I'm gonna write, I want to write like that. You were my inspiration when I wrote my eulogy for Party File. This was it.
Thanks,
Right?
man.
So and this is.
I'm honored.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, dude, shut up. You're what dull. This is probably one of the realest ones. So for those guys who want to read the whole blog and how he built this from scratch, I'll put this on the show notes. So just go to www.hustleshare.com. So let's talk about this blog that you did, the Startup PH Chronicles. You named it, right? You talked about how you built your team. Just talk about briefly. All right, you have the team, but you were not CEO back then. You were CTO,
Nope, I wasn't.
right? How did you go build that team, and who was CEO, and how did you pirate you said you were lucky to pirate someone. How did that happen?
Right. Okay. So what I didn't tell you in the first part is that we were actually 4 co-founders when we started.
Who's the secret one?
It's his name's Nick Galan.
Okay.
Very smart guy.
Yep.
Like until if you talk to him right now about crypto, he'll talk.
He knows his shit, right?
He knows his shit, right?
Yeah.
But Nick comes from a different background.
Okay.
Maybe I would say a little bit more traditional.
Got it.
I mean, suffice it to say, I'm sure you guys can read this in the blog, the one and only blog post that I've made.
Yeah,
in my
but
life.
again, it's beautiful. Holy
Thank you,
shit,
man.
right?
It took me like months to write that down because I had to sit down, write some stuff, and then go. Go
Correct.
back
It's
to work,
not
right?
easy, especially
It's
if
not
you're
easy,
coming
dude.
from an emotional
Exactly.
side, because you're gonna write a lot of stuff there.
Right.
That, you know what, I'm gonna sleep on this. I probably
Oh,
wrote
yeah,
some
dude.
shit that
For sure, man. For sure. I
Right.
still have some drafts that I removed a lot of paragraphs off of that.
Exactly, right.
So I think it was. I'm fudging the dates now, but like it was around when we started when Nick and the 3 of us, the 3 other co-founders, had a falling out.
Okay.
Right. So
this is a normal thing. A lot of startups fuck shit up because of founders fighting. That's fighting among themselves. What was the biggest reason, and why was this a key thing, and how did you become the guy? How did you become Captain America all of a sudden?
I don't know why, man.
Right.
But anyway, so it was sort of like there was a falling out that occurred, and it was, how do I put this delicately? It was a difference in opinions, right? So it was really, Nick wanted us to do things differently than what we intended things to happen, right? So, and it was in the middle of some deal that that we basically lost.
Yeah.
Right. And so when we decided, okay, Nick, why don't we just do it this way? We'll buy you out.
Right.
And
you did buy him out.
We had to buy him out.
Okay.
And Jardine, myself, and Miguel, we had a conversation and we said, look, we've already built something. We have some momentum already. And we have people that are working for us, looking at us. It's either we call it quits now, or maybe we should try to hustle some more.
Yeah. How close were you from calling it quits?
Dude,
And
it was basically I remember this conversation. It was on chat really, with me and Jardine,
right?
And I was saying, dude, is this even worth it anymore?
Wow.
And he goes, back then we didn't have any investor money or anything at all, so it was really just
bootstrap, right?
It was bootstrap, right? So it was our money and our time really. And Jardine goes, that line, right? Like, we have the momentum already, and I think it's still worth, salvaging whatever we have.
Right.
And so we did. And he convinced me. Jardine, he's senior to me, so he has some age, maybe a couple of years on me.
And every year, that's a year of wisdom, always.
Exactly, man. Right. Like, and this guy, dude.
Basically, what we're saying, Jardine, you're old.
Maybe he'll come to your show next time.
Just kidding. Right. But yeah, that's it. Now, how did you become the CEO? Because I remember when you wrote this, you were reluctant. You were the tech guy.
Yep.
And again, I don't want to put just generalize people or stereotype people.
Right.
Most in a big company where there's co-founders, unless you're the the idea guy, it's rare that the CTO becomes CEO.
For sure.
Because again, I don't know why, and I hope you shed light into this. Most of the time, it's because maybe it's the introverted side and whatnot, and the ability to just think indifferently and whatnot. People always say that, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I just noticed this from what I see, that in a startup, the Batman, the main guy, is always the hustler, the loud guy.
Right.
And Robin is the CTO.
Right.
Right. You were Robin at one point, and you became
sure.
Batman.
For sure.
Right. So how was that? And what is the change of perspectives like?
Right. Well, it was really a decision that we collectively made. When I say we, it was myself, Jardine, and Miguel.
Right.
I don't know. At first, it was really just an interim position. I agreed to it as an interim arrangement wherein we find someone that will actually run the business.
Got it.
The reason really why it was me over Jardine and Miguel is that they were busy with other stuff.
Got it.
Right. But also, aside from me being the tech guy, and look, I mean, I'm the tech guy, but really, I wouldn't call myself like a CTO wherein, I run all the developers. We were a small company back then. I had like one really, really smart developer who can basically develop everything, and a couple of other ones. So I was the ideas guy, right? So like I was one of those guys that I remember it was in our first office. It was maybe around 2014, and Miguel and I were arguing. We were arguing, friendly argument.
Healthy banter.
Healthy banter about why we should create a peso pegged coin.
There you go.
That was in 2014, dude. Like now you can hear it's called a stable coin now.
Right.
So to me, it was something that the whole business really was that the personification or the realization of all of our ideas. You know, I would come up with an idea, I would throw it at Jardine and Miguel, and we would just come up. And even Nick at the time, he was, like I said, he was smart, right? He was very brilliant. And so I think that sort of became one of the reasons why I was put on the position. But because I was that guy that was really just pushing for my ideas.
Got it. All right. So you're persistent on that now.
Yes.
Now let's just shed some light, because now being the ideas guy and having the background in tech, how difficult is it? Because I mean, we always say the buzzword, especially a couple of years ago, blockchain. Crypto, and all that shit. How hard, how different is it, and how hard is it to develop blockchain and crypto tech? Because now the buzzword is AI.
Right.
And people are like, yeah, there's AI. And then there's a study that 70% of the companies that actually claim there's AI is really not AI. Right? But what's the difference when you do that and when you really build a blockchain tech versus traditional development, and how hard is that to make? Right.
We have to sort of like segment this into different other segments, right?
Okay.
So like first, when we were starting, it was really more of us developing applications that connect to the blockchain.
Got it.
At the time, it was really just Bitcoin. Okay. So it was us connecting to the Bitcoin network.
Got it.
Right? And that's fairly easy, for the technical people there. It's really about connecting to RPC, via RPC to the node, right? It was fairly easy. It was easy enough to manage until, you start to amass a significant amount of Bitcoin, and then you realize, wait, our private keys are in that server, so we should maybe look further how we can secure this. Now, and then maybe fast forward a little bit. Now you're looking at actual blockchain development, wherein you develop your own blockchain, right? Maybe coming off of the Bitcoin code base or the Ethereum code base, and developing your own blockchain is a very, very difficult task. Dude, it's super hard. I mean, you're not only just trying to come up with code that works or a network that connects to each other. It's really more of understanding the economics behind it,
exactly,
or whether or not transactions per second will actually make your system usable.
Exactly.
Right? And then eventually, you get into, and this is really popularized by the likes of Ethereum, where you start to look into smart contracts, wherein you develop apps or decentralized apps on top of a blockchain.
Yes.
And that's really very difficult. I would say, a lot of people will say, blockchain developers are really expensive right now.
Right.
But the gist of it all is that if you are looking at developing smart contracts, you just look for a really, really seasoned JavaScript developer.
Exactly.
And there you have it. I mean,
And you got to develop, because if you're going to look for a senior that already done it before, good luck, because you're just going to have to pay 3 times more or 4 times more seasoned. You got to develop that guy from the ground up and walk hand in hand. Now, I'm curious, John, when you built the team, you talked about an ace that you had to pirate. That you said, Erica, you mentioned.
That's right.
Walk us through the key few hires that you had before, and how did you scale that up to where you guys are now?
Right. So, remember I was telling you about how we would meet the 3 co-founders, the 4 co-founders.
Right.
We would meet maybe once or twice or 3 times a week.
Okay.
And we would just talk about stuff, what to do. And really, when we realized that, look, we're not getting anywhere, right?
Yeah.
We need an adult in the room. And that at that time, Jardine had Erica in another business.
Got it. Also, she worked with Jardine.
She used to work with
Okay.
Jardine in another business of his. It was I believe it was a modeling agency, actually.
Oh wow, Jardine! What businesses do you have? What else? Wow. Okay.
Among other
I'll have a Jardine one of these days here.
You should.
Yeah.
So at first we asked Erica, "Hey, Erica, you want to help us here, sort of like figure out what we're trying to do, and maybe put, at the very least, put into action whatever we're talking about."
Someone to catch all your shit.
Right.
Technically.
And, I mean, to this day, that's what, like 5 years from now. I mean, that was really a very, very good move, because until this day, Erica is with SEI helping us with a bunch of stuff. Really.
Yep.
So definitely that was one of the best moves we've done.
Right. Correct. Now, for scaling that, right now, how big is your team now?
We're fairly big. I think we're about 40 right now.
Holy shit,
We're
that's
about
a
40.
big company.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's something that we have to do because of the scale that we're trying to build.
True.
Right, and also a lot of it plays in part because of the fact that we're regulated by the BSP now. So we need some key positions to
correct. It's not a wild west thing anymore. Right. So okay, now John, I'm curious about fundraising. So a few years back, you got funded by Kakao Talk.
Right.
How did that thing happen? And that was really big. I don't know any startup here that's been funded by Korean companies. I at least not that I know of.
Right.
Maybe I'm just naive, but just not out there too much. But how did that opportunity come in? Why? What did they see with your team that stood out from all the other, especially a few years ago, everybody was saying they were doing something blockchain related.
Right.
Yeah. How did that opportunity kind of happen, and how did you close that?
Well, you're right. We are the only Philippine company that Kakao has invested in, or
boom.
Yeah. Until now, I think they've only invested in a couple of other companies outside of Korea. So
Absolutely.
they mostly invest in Korea.
Correct.
Right? But at that time, they were actually partnered with ABS-CBN, trying to put in Kakao Talk.
Got it.
Here, they were trying to penetrate the Philippine market, and it was towards the end of the venture that they had with ABS. So they actually had an office in BGC.
Oh shit!
And
they were here.
They were here.
Got it. How did you see that opportunity? People didn't even know, right?
Dude, you know who introduced me to them? It was Ray Refundo.
Ray
of Quickwire.
Sugar Ray. What the fuck?
Connector,
Sugar Ray. If you wanted to learn the hustle of Ray Refundo, we had him on the show as well. Just check it out. Just scroll a bit more. But that guy is just everywhere.
Yeah, dude. He introduced us to Kakao. I went into a meeting. I pitched them what we were doing.
Right.
At that time, we were trying to raise money because we realized that we needed to scale faster than we intended, right? So, and I think, later on, they sort of confided with me the reason why they invested in us, they chose us, is because of our grit.
There you go.
And that was really important for me because it was more than the money that they put in. It's the validation that you're seeing what we're seeing. Yeah. Right. You're seeing what we believe in. Right. The passion.
It's really the team, that they invest in, and the work that resonates through the persistence and the grit, what I said, of the founders.
So it was really a good validation for us.
That's great. Now, what I wanted to know, so in startup life, right? It's not just ups and all ups. Whatever. If they say that in a PR, that's bullshit. Okay. let's walk us through the hard times, right?
There's a lot of those.
Talk about those hard times, because after Kakao Talk, that's where I kind of, was it straight up or did you fall? Because we knew that in last year, a couple of years ago, the bubble burst.
Oh,
the
yeah.
hype was real, then the
Right.
bubble burst.
Right.
How did that affect you guys? Because also the unique thing about SEI, and for those people, and you'll again read the blog of John. You're not a single product company
Right.
before,
Right.
right? You had a lot of products you want to line up, and that's hard, man.
Sure.
I'm in service, and I'm running so many. We're making so many bots,
Right.
dozens of them at the same time. Someone's paying for our shit, but
Right.
if you're running your own shit and you're creating multiple products,
sure.
they have different
For
use cases and whatnot. They have different users, target markets, and whatnot. That's hard.
And we were actually called out for that a lot of times, especially by the more traditional investors that we were talking to.
Got it.
And the question really that was posed to us was, how are you able to focus on things, right?
Yeah.
And they're right. And to be honest, the strategy that we were implementing back then was really a sort of like a test the product if it works,
Yeah.
and then build it out.
Got
So initially, what you would see as a product, or maybe an app or a website that we put out, it's really just a hack of sorts of
Okay.
our existing stuff.
Got it.
Right? So like, for example, I'll give you an example. Bills Ninja. We had a product called Bills Ninja.
Bills Ninja.
Wherein you pay your bills, local bills,
Right.
with Bitcoin. And really what it is just Bitmarket or Rebit
Got it.
formatted towards just direct remittance to
Yeah.
your bills, right? So it was more of us testing the product or sort of like the feature that we want to implement.
Got it.
And if it actually works, we fold it into our main product. So now our main product really is Rebit and Bitbit, the wallet.
There you go.
And Buy Bitcoin, which is the buy and sell.
Got it.
But really, Bitbit or the wallet
Right.
and Buy Bitcoin are pretty much the same.
Absolutely.
Right.
But you operate it independently.
We operate, no, actually, it's the same team that operates them.
I mean, when you scale it, because they're aimed towards different markets.
Right.
Right.
They're aimed towards different markets. I think I would say the only mistake that we made, that we ran into,
Yeah.
was that marketing was really hard.
Dude, holy
Marketing
shit.
is really difficult.
Yeah.
Even if operationally we can manage to run the multiple products that we have,
No.
marketing a bills payment provider versus a wallet is totally different.
Doing one is already hard.
That's
You're
right,
doing
exactly.
three.
Exactly.
Holy
So that was
shit.
really one of the things that we sort of like lagged behind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned mistakes, right? So let's talk about the hard shit now.
Right.
How hard? What was your lowest? What are the several lowest points that you remember that happened? Did you ever miss payroll? It was like, what were those near-death experiences?
We never missed payroll.
Yeah, that's
luckily
great.
enough. That's
Yeah.
good. And that's really important for us. Myself and Jardine, coming from
Yeah.
a traditional background, we understand
No.
that we take care of our people.
Exactly. Even if you don't eat, god damn it, fuck it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Well, they need to eat.
For sure, for sure. And
We'll
they're working for
sacrifice
you.
our own family,
Exactly,
whatnot,
exactly.
or our own well-being. But what were those things that
So
you
like
remember?
you're right. The back in 2017, the year started with Bitcoin trading at $1,000. It
Yep.
ended at 20,000 or close to $20,000.
Yeah, the hype was real, bro.
The hype was real. It was
Everybody's doing Bitcoin all of a sudden.
for sure, and it was as a
Right.
for-profit company, it was really one of the best years that we've had.
Right.
But the succeeding year, 2018,
Oh.
was really
Flat.
It was flat. It was really
Okay.
difficult for us. And what's interesting enough is that we actually knew, we predicted that it will happen. The winter will come, and we were sort of like prepared for it. But at the same time, some of our stakeholders there was pressure for us to expand,
Okay.
right? And so that was something that we had to do despite the dwindling volume that we were
Yeah.
experiencing. So I would say that 2018 was really difficult for us.
How bad did it get?
Oh, it was really bad. Like, I mean, we went from people lining up in our office. Mind you, our office isn't really designed to
True.
have walk-ins, right?
Right.
So we had people walking into us, trying to buy Bitcoin from us,
Yeah.
down to maybe getting a transaction a week.
Right.
It was really difficult for us, but we pushed through. We focused on the tech that we have.
Got it.
We invested a lot on the people that are actually building what's important for us, which is the tech.
Okay.
And luckily enough, in 2018, around third quarter, Cebuana noticed us.
Okay, so now let's talk about this, right? But before that, let's take a break. And let's talk about let's talk about that more after the break.
Effective automation is the best way for businesses to stay competitive. And having a chatbot for your business lets you easily automate and optimize sales, marketing, and customer service in the digital age. Chatbot PH will build, train, maintain, and market your chatbot across all messaging platforms. Our team uses the latest AI technologies to enable you to better serve customers 24/7, 365. Set a meeting with us today. Message us now at m.me/chatbotph.
And we're back from the break. We're still with John Bailon, who gave us a little bit of a cliffhanger prior to the break. So, 2018,
Right.
last quarter, you were scratching and clawing. You're barely alive, and
Right.
coming from the boom of 2017 to the valley of death of 2018.
Right.
How did Cebuana notice you, and how did that opportunity come about?
Right. It was really, actually, it was Miguel who was approached by Cebuana initially,
Okay,
and it
got
was
it.
the intention really was to work closely to closer together, because
Got it.
when we started in 2014, Cebuana was one of the first companies that actually supported us, meaning that
Wow.
they worked with us.
Nice.
Despite us, venturing into this unregulated gray area
Yeah.
cryptocurrency kind
Yeah.
of business, they were the ones that actually thought maybe let's give these guys a chance, right?
Absolutely.
So now 2018, around second half of 2018, they approached us looking at partnering with a lot of the remittances, all of the services that we offer.
Yeah, and you're very in line with their core business.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so, and I think they saw that. They saw that. They knew that they had to sort of get into this whole new,
Whole new world, like
a whole
Aladdin.
new world, right? A whole new world of fintech, wherein
Right.
banks are getting toppled
Correct,
by
correct.
coins.ph. Give it to them, dude. Like they have
Yeah.
more users than the biggest banks, right?
Exactly.
So they noticed that, and I think it was really sort of like it was a very easy conversation when we had to pitch what we were trying to do,
Got it.
because we were in line, right?
Right.
Our goals were aligned
Got it.
in that they believe, and props to Cebuana, they really want to help the Philippines, right?
Okay.
This is their ground, right?
Yeah.
So like they own this, and so it was easy for us to come into sort of like an agreement. Really.
What was the ace? Because fundraising, especially, it's easy. Okay, people always think of fundraising from an angel, fundraising from a VC, but fundraising for from a corporate. How was that like? How did it take? Were there instances where the deal almost got they went off the table? What was that
More than
process
once,
like?
dude.
Right.
I mean, there was a lot of times. You're right. This is actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I should fact check this. But
Yeah.
I believe we are the first company that Cebuana as a company invested in.
Correct. Yeah.
'Cause, I mean, the proponents of Cebuana, they invest personally on
Exactly.
other stuff.
Right,
But, like,
right.
as a company, it was really their first investment.
Exactly.
Right?
So
So you're right, dude. Like, I mean, it was unknown for them to do due diligence for such a small company.
True.
I mean, relatively speaking, right?
yeah,
I mean,
compared to where they are.
compared to
Right.
who they are,
Yeah.
I mean, it was something that I would say, it was new to them, right?
True.
So there were a lot of adjustments that we had to make,
Right.
And up until the last.
Last signature or
Last
whatever.
signature, there was really some questions around that, but eventually we realized we're in the same boat, right?
Correct.
We wanna help you guys want to help us as well, so it's a good partnership.
Absolutely. Now, walk us through what's the future going to be like for you guys, and also walk us through how you see crypto, because Bitcoin's getting back up. It's in the 9,000s right now. It went through the big bubble burst. So whoever lost your money, who lost money,
Right.
If you kept it, there might still be a chance
Maybe
to
there's a
recover
chance,
some
right,
of that
right,
shit.
right,
It's just a
right.
long game. But what's it like now, and with what you guys are doing,
Right.
and how crypto is going to be? Facebook's going to come up with their own shit very
sure.
soon. They said.
They just
So
announced it.
what do you see?
Right. Well, first of all, with SEI, I think, now there's a lot more clarity towards what we're trying to do.
Sure.
Right? With the partner that we have, right, the two partners that we have, Kakao and Cebuana, I think, I mean, it's not hard to understand or maybe to predict what the next move for SEI would be, right? But in terms of crypto in general, and this is more coming from a personal standpoint,
Sure.
right? When I got into crypto, it wasn't because I wanted to get rich. I mean, obviously, we all want to be rich, right? But it was the root of why I was so interested in crypto was really because of the technology and the underlying, or maybe not the underlying technology, but really the effect of it
and whatnot.
Right, the effect of it in society, right?
Correct.
So here you have this finite digital asset,
Right.
that is not controlled by anyone.
Yeah.
And it's running out, and you can own one without anyone else knowing that you own it,
Exactly.
right? Never mind, like money laundering, and that's bullshit, right?
Right,
If
right,
you money
right.
laundering Bitcoin, dude, you're gonna get caught faster
Yeah,
than
yeah.
anyone else, right? But
Right.
the point here is that it's a finite digital asset. That to me, and it's decentralized, right? So
Yes.
there's no one entity that controls
Nobody
it.
can manipulate it in
Right.
what way. and
Right,
whatnot. I mean,
exactly.
there can be. I mean, there's always some
Right. The
conspiracy
market can be
theories.
manipulated.
Right.
The technology or the whole idea of it all
Right.
is that it's decentralized.
True.
So that to me speaks a lot. Because I'm a sort of like a rebel. I would
There you go.
want to call myself as a
Yeah.
rebel in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, I quit my computer science program because
Right.
I thought like, "Fuck, you're making me do too much math." Right. So fuck that.
Yeah, you just
Right.
want to have control over your own destiny too.
Exactly, right. So like I've always been sort of like in that other side of the lane.
Yeah.
So it spoke a lot to me that,
Okay.
there's this new way of thinking about things, value of things. And it so happened that it uses computer science. So it's very, very interesting to me.
Okay, so what do you see now? What's it going to be like for the
Right.
next couple of years,
And-
and what's exciting that?
And this is a company policy that I am, adamant about, right?
Okay.
We never give publicly, at least publicly, we don't give price predictions.
Sure.
So, but I'll give you one now. It can
Okay.
be $1 or $100,000.
There you go.
In between, maybe more, maybe less.
There you go. That's that's a big range, bro. Holy shit.
No, but like
yeah.
seriously though, if you just look at, and this is a personal opinion, right? If you
Yeah.
just look at the fundamentals of it, like the whole structure of what it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And we've seen the highs and the lows now.
Right, exactly.
So now you kind of know what's the best case scenario, what's the worst case going to be
scenario.
like,
Exactly.
right?
So, and I'm a believer. I
Right.
think Bitcoin is one of those things that will outlast us. I think it's
Right.
it's one of those things that are what you call a multi-generational asset.
Absolutely.
Right? Like gold. Like,
Right.
There's very few of those. And if you think about it, dude, like if I ask you now how much gold is there in circulation, we
Dude.
don't know for sure.
Correct.
Bitcoin, I know. I can give you the exact number.
Yeah.
Right? So I would say it's really digital gold.
Absolutely. So, all right, now let's talk about hustle sharing here.
Right.
Let's just dig deep in whatnot. John, I wanted to get your opinion on building team chemistry and how you maintain shit. In those low times,
Right.
right? That's what defines a team.
Right.
In 2018, you mentioned that it was shit every day, or there was low stuff.
it was
How
hard.
was that like, and how did you motivate the team to go past having
Right.
all this hype and now to like having nothing, right?
I mean, singularly, as individually, I would say that I'm not adept at, inspiring the team.
Got it.
I think it's really a concerted effort between myself, among Jardine, Miguel, and I.
Yeah.
We bring sort of like different angles to the team, right?
Got it.
So I would say that Jardine is more of the people person in
There
our
you go.
team, in our leadership team. Miguel is sort of like the he's the friendly guy, dude. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody recognizes him. I remember him
The
telling
beard. It's the beard. Right?
Dude, it's the beard, right? So, like, I remember him telling me that one of the BDO guards downstairs said, "Hey, it's Mr. Bitcoin."
There you
To
go.
him, right? So like, he's very recognizable. And dude, like, if you actually get to know him, he's a really good person,
Correct.
a really nice person. And I'm more of like the shy guy, really,
Yeah.
even in the office, right? So like, I rarely come up with like inspirational,
Right.
quotable quotes, right?
Yeah.
But together, I mean, a combination of our personalities actually, I think,
Yeah.
is
It's a good mix.
It's a good mix.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Now, all right. Now, in terms of survival tips, right, for startup founders that you
Right.
can share there, because when you go through the valley of death, you know,
Right.
the first high and then boom, you hit right smack in the face.
Right.
What would be your tips for startup founders, for startups that are currently in that valley of death
Sure.
and nobody knows how long that's going to be like,
Dude.
right? To survive until you last long enough
Right.
to get your next breakthrough.
You know, and this really, sort of happened to me, and I think what helped me a lot really, I'm sure you've heard this from outside, from other people,
Yeah.
but it's really go back to your basics, right? Go back to your family. You have to have that support.
Okay.
You have to have that. You have to have a hobby at the very least. Dude, my hobby was Bitcoin,
Got it.
right? For a long time, my hobby was also my work.
Got it.
So when that burnout comes, you have to be prepared. You have
Okay.
to always take care of yourself, health wise.
Yeah.
It's really that. I mean, as much as I want to give you like business tips,
Yeah.
the most important thing is really to take care of yourself. By
Yeah.
doing, you do that by surround yourselves with loved ones.
Right.
Have a break, man. I mean, like, take the Sunday out, right?
Right. You can't be all 100 miles per hour all the time.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. It's a
you gotta
marathon.
pace. You
That's
gotta
right.
pace it out,
That's
right?
right.
And that's
That's
why I
right.
learned that too. When I was younger, like, fuck this.
Right.
I'll do 16 hours per day. And then next thing you know, you can't even get out of bed anymore.
Exactly.
Because you're dead.
I hear you,
per se.
man. I hear you.
Now, in terms of habits and hacks, what are the things that you would that you think you did right for SCI that helped you, get the Kakaos and the Cebuanas and all?
Right.
Because more than anything, okay, they will look at the financials and whatnot,
Right.
but the intangibles,
Right.
that's what also matters. What are the things that you instilled on the personal level and how you work as a founder, and what are the things that you instilled on the team
Right.
that allowed you to flourish and survive as well through that valley of death?
Well, I mean, it's really, and I have to give this to Jardine. He
Yeah.
was the biggest influence to me
Okay.
about this. It's really work ethic,
Okay.
right? I would actually, when we were starting, I would even run remittances. When I say run, I would actually bring money to
Yeah.
the bank to remit money for a customer. I
Wow.
would do that. All three of us would actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
We would actually answer customer support
Yeah.
tickets, all of these things, right?
Yeah.
There's no job that's too small for us, right? And that's very important to show your team
Yeah.
early on. It just, it's in Tagalog, it's malasakit, right?
Absolutely.
It's that feeling that, these guys care more than just
you're
the
with
money.
them.
Yeah, exactly, right? And really, I think the grit that you have,
Right.
that's really what these, seasoned investors would see.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if, let's say, I don't know, like you have a shitty
Right.
website or whatever, but if they see the passion in you,
Yeah.
then, dude, like that's already like 50% there.
Absolutely.
Right. So that you have to be able to. I'm not saying that you have to
Yeah.
fake it.
Right.
Dude, like if you are getting into business, make sure it's something that you're really, really into. That
Absolutely.
you're really passionate about.
Correct. Now, John, I have a question in terms of management, right? I
Right.
mean, are you that type where you delegate first? Well, what's your management style like? Because
Right.
again, you said you all bring something different to the table.
Right.
But for you, as the CEO, that
Right.
title is a heavy burden to have, right?
For sure.
What's your management like, and especially in your running the team and how you work with your co-founders?
So it's a mixed bag, right? So
Okay.
like initially, I remember myself, having to do things that I know I could have delegated, but I would do it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really just, I guess, the fire in you, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're so
yeah.
excited to do this whole startup thing. But eventually, I learned how to delegate.
Yeah.
And that's really very, very important, I think, in building a team, especially if you're in that growth stage.
Yeah.
You have to be able to build around you, right?
Okay.
I know my weaknesses. I know my strengths and my weaknesses.
Right.
And I have to, every time I'm looking at my team, I have to know that this person fulfills this weakness of mine.
God,
right?
like
So
a coach.
Right,
per se,
exactly.
you know,
Right.
like, we need a bucket. All right, give it to him. 'cause he's gonna
Exactly,
shoot
right?
it,
You
or
have to be
whatnot.
able, like, I mean, I'm not a day-to-day person.
Right.
I forget things, right? So,
Yeah.
like, and I heavily rely on Todoist, my app,
Got
to do all this stuff. But really, it has to be the team behind you that's running the show.
True.
Right? Sure, you're the coach, you're the point guard, but really,
Whatever,
these
right.
guys, they do everything.
They're the
for you.
stars.
They're the stars. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, man.
Yeah.
100%, man.
Yeah, you're their Kawhi Leonard
Right.
and whatnot without
sure.
the weird laughter. This is how he talks. All right, now last question, John, before I let
Sure.
you go. What would be knowing what you know now?
Right.
What would be your advice to your younger self? Like, you know, like how Captain America's
Sure.
America's ass. You see America's or SEI's ass,
Right.
right?
Right.
The BIM particles. What would be your advice for yourself back then, knowing what you know now?
Dude, it's really simple. Buy more Bitcoin.
There
No,
you
no,
go.
just kidding. No. But really, seriously though, I think,
I swear, right?
dude,
right.
like, I mean, if you have to,
Yeah.
right? No, but that's it, right? You have to, work, or your passion towards your work. You always have to limit it.
Absolutely.
Not because you don't want to give your all, because you have to, right? But you have to, in order for you to be able to give your all, you have to also take care of yourself,
Yes.
right? Otherwise, you run out, right? So
Right.
that's very important, and I'm learning this until now. I'm still learning this. You have to spend time with your family, spend
Right.
time with your friends, and dude, who knows? Like, I mean, talking to other people brings you a lot of other ideas, and
Absolutely.
really, you have to be able to take care of yourself mentally, physically, and even emotionally, right?
Balance, technically.
Balance,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
very, very important.
All right, thanks, John. Now, for those people that want to, what's your message for those people that want to check out your products
Right.
and whatnot? What do they need to do, and how do they do it?
Well, now that Bitcoin is going up again, and we're seeing a lot of volume coming in again, and if you're interested in Bitcoin, if you want to learn more about it, you go to buybitcoin.ph. We have a bunch of stuff there that will teach you what Bitcoin is.
There you go.
I suggest to put only what you can lose.
Okay,
first.
don't gamble. This is
Don't-
not the
don't-
casino.
yeah.
Okay.
Pay for your son's tuition first before and-
Yeah, I'm sorry. I remember those times. Right?
Right.
Like, oh shoot, I'm gonna put my retirement money in here.
No, dude.
And boom, it's gone.
Like in any
Right.
other investment, it's risky.
Right.
Maybe even more riskier with crypto.
Very volatile.
very, very volatile. So,
Right.
yeah.
So that'll be it. What else? And again, John, thank you very much for sharing your hustle with us
Thanks
today.
for
This is
having me, man.
amazing. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank
All
you.
right. So for those hustlers that want to learn more about what you guys our next episode, especially in season 2, this is our third to the last episode. Actually, no, second to the last episode. Before we take a break, we're still gonna be around. Don't worry, we're not gonna be out for long. But if you guys want to get first tips on what we're doing and get exclusive shit that we don't really talk about, go to the Hustle Share community on Facebook. And don't forget to message us on our chatbot on m.me/hustleshare, powered by chatbot.ph. Again, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ron.
And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.